All right. So, training vlog. We had some thinking to do after the Firecracker 5K, and figuring out what our next race is going to be. Looking at travel schedules and life and work and school and all that other kind of stuff. So I think the next thing on our docket is going to be Chile Pepper. So we've done our baseline fitness assessment, did some base training so far this summer since Boston. We got a basic idea where our fitness is at. So now we can kind of start putting the rubber to the road, so to speak, and doing some good training. So the first step is figuring out what the target races we're going to take. And this is not an approach I normally take to training. I don't normally choose a race and work backwards, but 11, 12 weeks is about the right amount of time if you're going to train for a peak race. And that's how long I have until Chile Pepper in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But it kind of fits the bill for what we're looking for, to be able to see if we can run a good 5K time. It's got fast course. It is around the ag fields at the University of Arkansas on the ag campus. It's pretty flat. It's well manicured. Even though it's a cross-country course, so it's on grass and gravel, it's still faster than a lot of 5K road races. And even though it's in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is not flat, this course is really fast. There's only really like one hill that you got to go up twice. And it's my second favorite race of all time, right behind the Boston Marathon. So if you're in the area, if you can swing by, check it out. It's on October 5th. Yeah, October 5th, I believe, this year. And that's the second part. It's at the beginning of October in northern Arkansas. So it's just late enough in the fall that it's cool enough to run fast, especially early, which is when the 5K and 10K run for the Open. Not like the high school races later in the day after lunch, which get pretty hot and dusty normally. But they're typically really good running conditions. So barring like a rainstorm rolling through like we had last year or something like that, it's still pretty fast. Barring some kind of weird weather anomaly, it should provide the opportunity to run a really fast race. So it's far enough away time-wise to be able to train for it. It's got a course that's conducive to running a fast time. It's got a field of runners that's competitive enough to pull someone along to a good time, which is important. And it's at the time of year that the weather conditions are conducive to running well. So I think that's the plan. Kind of fits the bill for all the things we need for a fast 5K, so that's what we're going to target. I don't know yet how intense the rest of July and August, and maybe the first week or two of September is going to really be in terms of intensity. Just because I live in Louisiana and it's really hot. We had the hurricane roll through this weekend, and it felt really nice out front in the rain on Sunday. And even yesterday morning was pretty good for my long run, but it was still humid enough and just warm enough that it's hard to keep the heart rate down. And so I think we'll probably still be putting a decent amount of emphasis on the shorter turnover stuff so we can work fast, improve biomechanics, and be more biomechanically efficient. And then some of the harder, the majority of our work is going to be spent running fairly easy. We'll do some threshold work and kind of work on bumping that up a little bit. But we're probably going to hold off on doing a lot of gut busting VO2 work until it cools down just a little bit. And that's mostly because of safety issues. It's not that you can't run that intensity in these weather conditions that we have here this time of year, but it's really hard to get your heart rate back down between reps. And so what ends up happening is after the first couple reps, your heart rate just keeps going up and up and up and up. And all of a sudden, your heart rate's too high, and you're not recovering between reps. And so you're not actually getting out of the workout what it is you're trying to get out of it, which is being able to better buffer your blood pH and being able to develop that VO2 max and still moving quickly, so you're getting those good biomechanical stimuli, and, really making sure you got good mechanics so you're not getting hurt. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to be able to recover between intervals. And so if you follow along on Strava, you'll probably notice some of the intervals I will be doing will have a little more rest than, quote unquote, is recommended or normal. Even though we're going to be doing it at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still really humid, still really hot. Speaking of those Wednesday speed sessions, we got a decent number of guys out there now training with, so that's always good. Misery loves company. But last week, so back up. Let's do last week's recap. Last week we did a 10-mile long run on Monday, and it felt pretty good. By the time I got to about mile 5 or so, kind of halfway point, I kind of turned around and started running home. And the turnaround point was on top of the hill, so I started going a little too fast coming down the hill. And I realized it by the time I was, at mile 5.5. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm moving fast. My heart rate's already up. Might as well take advantage of it and see if we can get a little bit of threshold work, almost treat it like a progression run. So not true threshold work, but, starting to kind of dip our toe in the training water, so to speak, getting comfortable, getting just a little uncomfortable. We worked miles 5, 6, and 7, and by the time I was getting to the 8-mile mark, it was getting back to the track, and I noticed there were a couple of folks there running some 400s that I hadn't seen all summer. I wanted to check on some folks that I had coached in the past when I was helping out at the university. And so I was like, you know what? I'll walk a 400 with them while they're taking their 400 walk recovery, check on them, shoot the breeze with them for a couple minutes, and then do the last 2 miles coming home. And which I think is okay to do. Those last 2 miles of the workout really kind of designed to be a cool down anyway. We got in a 3-mile harder push. We did it. And so it gave the heart rate an opportunity to kind of come down a little bit before I was trying to actually cool down on the way home. So we did a couple easy miles on Tuesday. I think I got in a quick swim on Tuesday too. Wednesday, we got the Wednesday morning speed session, and we had a good group of guys out there, and we talked about it a little bit, and some guys wanted to run some 400s. I wanted to drop a couple 600s in there just to kind of start stretching that effort level a little bit. Not going too crazy, but just stretched a little bit. So yeah, we did 4 400s, 2 600s, and then fast 400. So the first, obviously, the total average was not exactly blistering, but the individual efforts weren't terribly shabby. Yeah, because we ran a 73 on the first one, on the first 400, 72 on the second one, 69 on the third one, and then 75 on the fourth 400. So that fourth one was a little slow. I think we were kind of anticipating these 600s that were coming up. And we were getting plenty of rest in between them. We were getting almost 3 minutes in between them. So, but you can see my heart rate didn't get super crazy. But then we popped on down and we did our 600s, 148, 146, and those actually felt pretty good. That second 600, I think I got to about the 100-meter mark, and I was like, oh no, coming around the curve, like I could feel like the glutes and the hams were having to work. But it was a little bit faster. Like it felt okay. And then that last 400, we gave ourselves plenty of recovery on it, just a little over 3 minutes. But then we rolled into it and ran a 65, which was a lot faster than I was anticipating. If we go back to the overview so we can see the cadence, I'm normally if I'm just running easy, my cadence is right around 160 steps per minute. And obviously, like during striders, it's going to get up. But in their 400s, they were settling kind of right around 180, 185, maybe 190, depending on which one it was. So, I mean, that was pretty high turnover for me. And then we had our 2 600s here, and you can see they're just a little bit, I mean, they were about the same pace as our 400s here. These are the 400s, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our 2 600s. And they're all fairly consistent pace-wise. The turnover rate was a little higher on the 400s than the 600s. But that fourth 400 was slower, Obviously, since we ran 75, you see the turnover rate was a little lower, and I think that's why it was slower, is because the turnover rate was lower. So we got a little bit less of the stretch reflex and a little less pop and a little more muscling through it. Whereas over here, that last 400, even though we got the same amount of rest essentially as the rest of them, it felt amazing. We got over 200 steps per minute on it. We were moving right along. The heart rate got up there, but it didn't feel like I was working. It felt like I was cruising right along. And I think what happened was, and you can kind of see this here with the cadence, that's really useful you can get out of Strava, is because the cadence jumped so much, up to 200 steps per minute, I was more biomechanically efficient because I was getting more of that stretch reflex out of my calves. I was getting more pop, bigger range of motion, more knee drive. And so being able to take more advantage of the stretch reflex meant that I was able to get more free energy, and the heart rate jacked. I mean, the heart rate went way up, obviously, because I was working really hard. Felt really good because we were tapping into another energy system because we were working a little more anaerobically. One thing I hadn't mentioned yet is we got over 41 miles last week. 5.5 hours plus, another half hour of swimming. So we actually totaled, I think, more than 6 hours total. Which, if you look, that's the highest volume I've had since March. So it was a high volume week, no rest days. We got a 10-mile long run in with a little bit of work. We got some speed work in, and the rest of it was, easy miles. I got to run in the rain on Sunday, and that felt pretty good. And you see the average pace was a little faster than normal. And then yesterday morning, I went and did a couple 5-minute threshold intervals in the middle of my 10-mile run, and it was work. It was really humid after the storm. But we'll get into that next week. So that's where we're at. We got about 11 weeks until Chile Pepper. The baseline fitness, I think, is there, as we saw from Firecracker. We got a couple good hard workouts in last week, and we're feeling okay. I could definitely tell last week was also my first time running in ultras again since maybe February. So I did my quality workouts in a zero-drop shoe. It was extra lightweight, which felt amazing, but it required a little more range of motion out of my calves, and I had a little less support for my feet, as opposed to running in my Brooks Ghosts. So my left arch is a little sore, just from having to work a little more because it didn't have the extra support from the shoe. But my calves actually feel pretty good. They were a little tight Thursday last week after the speed session, but not bad. They limbered up. I hit the foam roller. I don't really have any niggles or anything creeping up, so I think we're in a good spot to start this training block. So I'll be excited to see how it goes. Anyway, follow along. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down there. Share this with your friends. If there's anything you want to hear about in the training talks or any technique demonstrations you want to see on the second video we do this week, techniques and demos and training talks, let me know. Till next time, train smart.